This is Nash. Nash is a 2-year-old doodle who gets very excited for the walk. He also doesn't have the best manners at the door. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can teach your dog to stay away from the door, number one, and also how to make sure that they're calm on a walk. Normally I just do these one at a time, but I like the Guardian, so we're going to get a two for here. So basically, when we go to the door, if there's, well, first of all, does he bark a lot if there's a knock at the door?
Yes.
So one of the things, when we go to the door and guests are there, that's an exciting time for dogs. And people are going to come in, I got to sniff them, maybe jump up on them, they're going to pet me. So the dog gets really excited about that. I talked to the Guardian off camera, excited is not the same thing as happy. But they often get themselves worked up because we interpret, if you look at him right now, you see his mouth open, we interpret that as a smile, but he's just actually out of breath a little bit or a little bit stressed, usually. And so when people come in and we're like, oh, who's good? And we get them all worked up, well, they get more and more worked up each time. So now classical conditioning is Pavlov's dog. And so that means that something happens and then something after that is going to be beneficial, the dog's going to like. So the thing that happens first is an indicator that something else is going to, so a knock indicates somebody's going to come to the door. So what I like to do is often break the association. So when he's not paying attention, see that snap of the head? Now normally he would run there. So when you're watching TV, lean back only do this when there's nobody out front and nobody's coming to your door. So his instinct, he's classically conditioned to run to the door. So he runs to the door, but there's nobody there. And you don't go to the door. So after a while, he's just like, knocking at the door. Sometimes it's an old house, sometimes it creaks. So that's one of the first steps. And the reason I'm kind of combining these is these are similar principles to what I'm going to talk to you for the leash. The part that I'm talking about now will be very similar to the leash part I'm going to talk about in a minute. So I want to get him used to the knock until he no longer does that. Now, preferably without him seeing you knock. Now, I talked about how to teach an out command. I'm gonna walk over here. I'm gonna have you stand kind of the same angle because it'll be backlit if you're facing your window. So when I go to the door, somebody's at the door, the dog usually races ahead of us. Well, whoever's in front is the leader in the dog world. So if he's in front of me when I try to open the door, he thinks I'm assisting him. So what I want to do is teach him to move away from the door. So I might throw a treat like that, and call this place, station, reservations. So we want to teach him that moving away from the door is a positive, and we want to label it with a command word. So come up with a command word that means to go like right here. Now when we practice this, we do it when there's nobody passing by, there's nobody at the door, because that's the easier version of it. Station. So after a while, you can come to the door, and when he goes here, you say station, and he moves away because he understands what we want. If he doesn't, you can use those escalating consequences, just like I showed you in the kitchen, to move him away. Now, I'm going to see if we can achieve this here. Nash, sit. I wouldn't put him in a sit. I'm just doing this for demonstration purpose. So I'm going to walk backwards. Now, opening the door, we think of as one activity, but there's a whole bunch of little steps. The first step is the dog's running in front, or the knock or the doorbell chime. Then the dog runs in front of us. Then we walk to the door. Nash. Then we unlock the door, deadbolt, then we twist the handle, then we open it a little bit, then we open it, then we open the screen door. That's a whole lot of individual steps. So what I want him to do is that I want him to stay out of this room when I do the steps. Can you take a half step here just so you can see a little bit more of an angle? So once I cross the threshold of what, and you might actually, we're talking about basketball, you might actually put painter's tape down and create a box here. So when we're answering the door, we're not allowed to exceed or go into that box. So I turn, I keep my authority, whatever direction my hips are pointed at him, take a step back and I pause. I shimmy away from that, there we go. And again, well, not again, before you do this exercise when you're practicing, exercising him first before you do this would be helpful. I'm not giving him a treat that will make him bark more, I'm just distracting him so he's not barking so you can hear me. So you might want to exercise him before you practice this. You want to have as much of that. So I take a step back, pause, he stays, step back. Then I'm going to do this first step. See how he snapped, when you watch this, you'll see he snapped to look at the door. So I want to make this step as loud as possible, and I'm teaching him during this step of the process, the behavior that's expected for you to stay right there. And if he crosses, I stop what I'm doing, and I go back, and we reset. So the next step is the handle. And sometimes when I do it, I'll pull my hand back, go back to a reset. Sit. Well, that'll work. Now I open it an inch, put my arm back, and then I would close it. Now you're not doing this forever, just until you can go through all these steps and he stays behind the line. Now when I actually go to open it, I usually switch over, so I usually open it an inch, then I step forward, grab it, and then I open it the rest of the way myself. Then I'd have the guest, then I would step backwards, this step as well. Now if you put the covering of the bottom part, you won't be able to see that there's somebody out there. Right now he knows there's nobody out there. But that's okay, that's a good way to practice as well. And then I go, hey, come on in. See how that caused him to move forward? Because that's what he's used to. And he's going to run, he's going to jump up on them. And jumping up, like I said, this can be a way of claiming the guest. And this is essentially practice. He's done this a long time. Okay, so that's basically that's the door. And again, teaching him that first step by tossing the treat. So I'm going to grab the bully sticks. And when there's nobody here, and assigning a command where it's station, place, spot, or whatever it is, gives him something to do. All right, so now let's say that I'm sitting here and I'm Nash's guardian and I want to go for a walk. Now, do you narrate when you're going to go for a walk? Hey, Nash, you want to go for a walk? You want to go for a walk? Yeah, I'm guessing yes.
Usually, yes.
So don't do that. Just basically what you're going to do, and I'm going to pantomime this because I could do it, but it probably is going to take us 15 minutes. And the first time I did this, well, not first time, but one of the times I did it with a client, it took 45 minutes for the first part, an hour for the second part. Okay, so I'll explain it. So the first step is I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk towards where the leash is without narrating and telling him why. Now for dogs, like I mentioned earlier, whoever's in front is in charge. So if he moves in front of me as I'm walking to where the leash is, because he's going to recognize, oh, you put your shoes on that we go for a walk on it, and he's going to run try to beat you to the door. As soon as he walks in front of me, I turn around and I sit back down. I don't correct him, but I'm saying through my actions, when you move in front of me, I lose interest in this activity. So again, and exercising him before this will also help. So, and then I wait for him to settle down, then I get up and walk again. This is the part that took 45 minutes, just walking to where the leash was. And as soon as he walked in front, the guy turned around and sat back down on the couch. Now, once the dog finally figured it out, the dog stayed behind him. So let's say the leash is kept right here. So we go over here to where the leash is. Now, Nash, sit. Then I'm gonna, let's say the leash is hanging here, I'm gonna reach for it. Now, as soon as the dog recognizes, he's gonna wiggle and jump up. I pull my arm back and I tell him to sit. He has 3 seconds to sit. If he sits within 3 seconds, I would reach again. If he doesn't, then I would go sit back down and the whole process starts over. This part took an hour. But eventually, and you should expect here, and first only here, then here, then here, then here. Then I can pick up the leash, I'm jiggling it. I'm making it as hard as possible during the practice range. And the thing about this is, I recommend people practice leashing their dog up 5 times for every time you have to put the leash and actually take them outside. They also break that connection. So the first like 3 or 4 times I might say sit, now sit, sit. Don't repeat it like that. So then I start reaching. And let's say that he gets up, I stop and I say sit. I might do that 2 or 3 times. And then the 4th time when I reach and he gets up, I would just stop, drop my hands. I wouldn't say sit at this point because he kind of should know what I want. And as soon as he sits, if in that 3-second window he sits, then I start the process. If he doesn't, then I go back and sit back down. Now this is an hour and 45 minutes. And the guy, we went on a walk and we were in South Central LA. And he told me, he's like, man, he goes, David, I can tell you, man, my dog has never behaved this well on a walk. He's listening to me. He's not barking and lunging. He's not pulling on a leash. Man, this is awesome. But dude, I don't have an hour and 45 minutes to leash my dog up every time. The second time it took 20 minutes. Third time it took about 8 minutes. After that it was about 4 minutes, and then it was like minutes. But again, he was also practicing leashing the dog up without going for a walk, desensitizing the dog for it. So it's just, oh, another drill. Oh man, I remember we used to go for, oh, we're walking. And so the energy the dog has in the house is going to be a correlation to the energy they're going to have on the walk. If you don't achieve a calm, balanced energy in the house, this is what you're going to what you saw him jumping up, that's what you're going to have on a walk. Probably even worse because now there's more stimulus. So for him, and for both these exercises, exercising him first, I went over some kind of secrets of exercising the dog very quickly and easily inside. After doing that, give him 10 minutes to recover so he's not breathing heavy, then practice this exercise. Practice the leash exercise, practice the door exercise. And eventually you go through this and somebody comes to the door and he just like goes over there, or you go and he just automatically will sit down, pick up the leash and attach it. He's nice and calm and balanced. Remember, calm is what we're looking for. Excited is not the same thing as happy. Nash. Nash. You're kind of quiet. Nash. Sit. Well, there we go. sit. Well, this handsome guy is Nash, and these are some tips and tricks you can use on how to keep your dog calm when you're leashing them and to behave well when you have people come over the door instead of jumping up on your guests.